Hello, loom knitting friends. This is a video on how to make a garter stitch scarf. I suddenly felt like making a burgundy scarf. It must have something to do with the fall weather. Since the burgundy color against a purple loom would be difficult for you to see, I'll be demonstrating this pattern using yarn that's yellow. Thanks so much for watching my channel, Ms. Yarn. Today we're going to cover Number 1, how to mark your loom. Number 2, how to cast on using a double E-wrap cast on. Number 3, how to do the garter stitch. We'll be alternating rows of the purl stitch with rows of the unit stitch. And finally, number 4, how to bind off. For the supplies you'll need a knitting loom. I used a purple 31 peg round loom from Michaels that has a gauge of 11/16 of an inch. If you want a denser scarf, feel free to use a smaller gauge loom or use heavier yarn. For the yarn, I used one ball of number 4 weight yarn. The brand I used was Impeccable. For the full scarf, I used burgundy yarn, and for this video, I used yellow yarn so that you can more easily see the stitches. Lastly, for the supplies, you'll need a hook, a pair of scissors, and a yarn needle. Let's get started by marking our loom. This pattern uses 21 pegs, so let's mark pegs 1 and 2 to the left of the anchor peg, and let's mark pegs 20 and 21 as well. Here's a close-up shot of pegs 1 and 2, where you can see I just taped the numbers to my loom. And here's a better look at pegs 20 and 21. Marking these pegs is going to help when you see how I create the smooth edges of my scarf. Let's start the next step by tying a slip knot to peg 22, just to keep the tail out of the way. Now let's wrap peg 21 back to front 2 times. Then with your hook, knit over the bottom loop. Now let's do the same for peg 20. Wrap it twice, then knit over. Now keep doing these double E-wraps on every peg until you complete peg 1. Here I've jumped ahead and I'm double E-wrapping peg 1. And now our cast on is done. For the garter stitch, we'll alternate rows of the purl stitch and rows of the unit stitch, and we'll also create smooth edges, and I'll show you how to do that. Row 1 is a purl row. We'll skip peg 1 and purl on peg 2. Lay your working yarn below the loop on the peg. With your hook, go under the loop from the top. Now grab that working yarn. Pull it upwards to make a new loop. Remove the old loop from the peg and put the new loop on the peg. Let's purl on peg 3 now. Lay your working yarn below the loop on the peg. With your hook, go under the loop from the top. Now grab that working yarn. Pull it upwards to make a new loop. Remove the old loop from the peg and put the new loop on the peg. We'll pull on the yarn to tighten the stitch and we'll purl on peg 4. Keep purling on your own until you've completed peg 20 and we'll meet again. Here I have fast forwarded things, so I'm purling on peg 20. So to get a smooth edge, on peg 21, I'm going to do a unit stitch. So just a knit stitch front to back. Knit the bottom loop over and row 1 is done. Row 2 of this 2-row repeat is a knit row. We will skip peg 21 since we want a smooth edge, and we'll do a unit stitch on peg 20. So wrap it front to back and knit over. Now do a unit stitch on peg 19 and keep knitting towards the right until you knit peg 1. So I've jumped ahead here and I'm doing my unit stitch on peg 1. And now, as you can see, we've completed row 2. So now you're going to continue this 2-row repeat. So row 3 is just like row 1, and row 4 is just like row 2, and so on. Keep going until you're at the length that you're looking for. I myself used the whole ball of yarn, and my scarf ended up being 67 inches long. Go ahead and knit on your own, following this 2-row repeat. Don't forget to remove the slip knot from your loom. And let's meet again when it's time to bind off. Because I'm demonstrating with this yellow sample, I'm going to bind off before completing a whole scarf. We'll be doing a basic bind off, and we're going to start at the left side of our project. Let's rename these pegs as peg 1 and peg 2. For the basic bind off, we're going to keep repeating these 4 steps. Do a unit stitch on peg 2. Move the loop on peg 2 over to peg 1. Knit over on peg 1. Move the loop on peg 1 over to peg 2. Now we have a new peg 1 and a new peg 2. Let's repeat these 4 steps again. Do a unit stitch on peg 2. Move the loop on peg 2 over to peg 1. Knit over on peg 1. Move the loop on peg 1 over to peg 2. Now we have a new peg 1 and a new peg 2. Now on your own, you can keep binding off until you reach the right side of your project. Just keep in mind that you should knit a little bit more loosely than usual. Here I've jumped ahead and I'm binding off on the last 2 pegs. I do a unit stitch on the right peg. I move that loop to the left peg. I knit over, and now I'm almost done with the bind off. Let's cut the yarn so that we have about 8 inches or so for the tail. Now with the hook, let's tug on the yarn on the peg and let's pull the yarn all the way out. Move the loom away, and now our bind off is done. Let's have a look at the bind off edge, and we'll also stretch out the stitches. Let's also check out the cast on edge. It looks good too, even though there's a mistake in the middle. Nobody's perfect. So now it's time to weave in the ends. This is the bind off edge that I'm working on. I just flipped over the sample. Now I'm trying to follow the yarn from one side of the sample towards the center. I'm just going to try my best to follow the yarn's path, and then I'll just cut off any remaining yarn. I'll let you finish weaving in the ends of the bind off edge on your own. And don't forget to weave in the ends at the cast on edge as well. Before I let you go, I'll show you the entire burgundy scarf that I had made. It's a straightforward garter stitch project that I hope you can make too. Thanks so much for watching my video. See you next time.